Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third and final day of the conclave. We hope you've had a good time in the last 2 days being part of this national conclave. And I'm sure you must have learned and shared several aspects of WASH and Panchayats. So please give yourself a huge round of applause for being here and witnessing and learning so many insights. And I'm sure you've had a great time. Yes, for that, we are clapping. Today would be the last day of the conclave, and do not forget to take your certificate. You can go to the photo booth and get a picture clicked. We already have a lot of wonderful pictures coming here already. So please go ahead, go to the photo booth and get a picture click so that we can hand over the certificates to you online. And now let's begin our third day with a wonderful song by Miss Rinki Sharma. As we all know, Rinki Sharma is a singer, songwriter, composer based out of Hyderabad, a professional musician for almost a decade now. She has released 2 self-written albums already and has another one in the pipeline. And she's also a volunteer at Youngistan Foundation. So let's listen to Rinki's beautiful song now. Over to you, Rinki.
Thank you, Sharon. So excited for the last day and glad, that you guys are having me on again. I'm going to start off with a song about unlocking your full potential and about sort of overcoming self-doubt and just fulfilling your destiny that only you can fulfill, because only you are meant to do the things that are written in your destiny, right? So this song is about that, and I hope you enjoy this. Here we go. खोलो दरवाजे पर्दे करो किनारे खूंटी से बंधी है हवा मिल के छुड़ा सारी आ जाओ पतंग लेके अपने ही रंग लेके आसमां का शामियाना आज हमें है सजाना क्यों इस कदर हैरान तू मौसम का है मेहमान तू दुनिया सजी तेरे लिए खुद को जरा पहचान तू धूप है चमके बिखर तू है नदी या बेखबर बह चल कहीं उड़ चल कहीं दिल खुश जहां तेरी तो मंजिल है वही क्यों इस कदर हैरान तू मौसम का है मेहमान पासी जिंदगी उदासी ताजी हंसने को राजी गर्म गर्म सारी अभी अभी है तारी जिंदगी तो है बताशा मीठी मीठी सी है आशा चख ले रख ले हथेली से ढक ले इसे तुझ में अगर प्यास है बारिश का घर भी पास है रोके तुझे कोई क्यों भला संग संग तेरे आकाश है तू धूप है झम से बिखर तू है नदी या बेखबर बह चल कहीं उड़ चल कहीं दिल खुश जहां तेरी तो मंजिल है वही क्यों इस कदर हैरान तू मौसम का है मेहमान Thank you so much, everyone. This song is called Kholo Kholo Darwaze.
was really beautiful. Once again, we all had a great time, and please, everybody clap for Rinki Sharma for that wonderful song that she just sang for all of us. Thank you once again, Rinki, and we'll be calling you back soon. All right, moving on to the next session of the conclave, we have a plenary session on strengthening Gram Panchayats to set up service benchmarks, monitor and attain WASH-related sustainable development goals in time. And the moderators for this session are Dr. R. Ramesh and Ms. Kaushiki. Dr. Ramesh is an associate professor and head of Center for Rural Infrastructure at the National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, NIRDPR, Hyderabad. Ms. Kaushiki Banerjee is a WASH officer for monitoring and evaluation focal point at UNICEF India. She has a double master's in economics and public health and has over a decade of experience in WASH and public health. Over to Dr. Ramesh and Ms. Kaushiki.
Thank you for that great introduction. So what I will do is I'll quickly share my slide so that we can start the process. Dr. Ramesh, do let me know if you're able to see my presentation.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, that's great. Sorry, 1 second. Just 1 minute. Great. So just to quickly set the context of today's session, I will be talking on monitoring services. The presentation will be both in English and in Hindi. So we are in the last day of WASH Conclave, and I think monitoring is one of the most important session that we really require some focus. So the topic today is to talk about how do we strengthen the Gram Panchayat to set up different service level benchmarks, and how do we exactly monitor for WASH. This is something that we all need to work on, given that you have obviously seen a lot of the different programs that's happening, but it's important to see how do we ensure that all the services are are proper and taking their real part. So I'll be briefly touching upon the global WASH monitoring. Secondly, then I will request Dr. Ramesh to talk about the different service level benchmark in WASH. He will take us through that. We have Kushwant Sethi sir from MUPR taking us to capacity and professionalization of Gram Panchayats to monitor. Then we will take you to the state of Bihar, where our colleague Rajiv will talk about the different monitoring of water services. And finally, we will take you through a very short video and a case story of a Gram Panchayat. And we will have Sarpanch, Ms. Elda Subarnala from Sirsapalli Gram Panchayat, Karimgarh, Telangana, giving her few ideas about the overall work that's happening in monitoring. So just to quickly set the context for the global WASH monitoring. So the global water sanitation and hygiene monitoring, it starts with the sustainable development goal. Now, आप सबको मालूम है कि ये जो छठी वाला गोल है, ये हमारी क्लीन वाटर एंड सैनिटेशन के लिए है. इसका टारगेट जो है कि 6.1 में बाय 2030 हम लोग यूनिवर्सल एंड इक्विटेबल एक्सेस टू सेफ एंड अफोर्डेबल ड्रिंकिंग वाटर सबके लिए पहुंचाए. तो ये जो पानी का सबसे बड़ा जो हमारा टारगेट है कि 2030 में सबके घर पे पानी पहुंचना चाहिए एंड ये अफोर्डेबल होना चाहिए और सब लोगों को इक्वल शेयर से इस पानी को मिलना चाहिए. सो इन टर्म्स ऑफ मॉनिटरिंग कि हमको इसको अगर ट्रैक करना होगा तो व्हाट इज द काइंड ऑफ इंडिकेटर दैट वी यूजिंग. सो वी आर यूजिंग अ इंडिकेटर द प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ पॉपुलेशन कि हमारे जो भी पॉपुलेशन है व्हाट आर द पॉपुलेशन यूजिंग सेफली मैनेज ड्रिंकिंग वाटर सर्विस. आप इसको ध्यान रखना कि ये जो सेफली मैनेज वर्ड है, हम इसके नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में इसके ऊपर और भी चर्चा करेंगे। अभी पानी के बाद आता है हमारे टॉयलेट और हैंड वॉशिंग के काम। So target 6.2 of the Sustainable Development Goals talk about by 2030, we have to achieve access to adequate, equitable sanitation and hygiene for all. जिसका पहला जो पड़ाव है कि to end open defecation and pay special attention to the needs of women and girls and those in vulnerable situations. Now, similarly, in order to track this particular target, what are the indicator that we are using for sustainable development goal tracking is 6.2.1a. It's very similar, like you see for safely managed drinking water. We are talking about proportion of population using safely managed sanitation service. Just the second indicator for this particular target 6.2 is again proportion of population using a hand washing facility. And इसको थोड़ा ध्यान रखना कि hand washing facility होने से नहीं होगा, ये वो population को track करता है जहाँ पे soap and water ये both चीज are available. Now इसके बाद let's move to the joint monitoring program. ये पूरे विश्व में this joint monitoring program is one of the monitoring plan that is done through a collaboration between WHO and UNICEF. It is to monitor the progress of different countries with respect to the sustainable development goal which is set by all the government. पूरे विश्व में जब sustainable development goal set कर रहे थे, target set कर रहे थे, इंडिया भी उसके पार्ट में थे and पूरे विश्व ने ये target set किया है and WHO and UNICEF has created the joint monitoring program in order to track it. क्योंकि हमको पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि पूरे वर्ल्ड में फिर और क्या चल रहा है. So the first thing what they did was they started with the ladder. So the ladder system, if you see, the first thing that they will measure is the safely managed. ये ladder के सबसे ऊपर पड़ाव में, सबसे ऊपर रंग में जो है वो safely managed है. The second, आप अगर ladder से थोड़ा एक पॉइंट नीचे जाए तो आपको बेसिक में आपको आप उसको मॉनिटर करेंगे. फिर उसके बाद comes the limited monitoring, then comes unimproved, and then finally जहाँ पे सिर्फ surface water available है, बहुत जगह पे countries में open defecation अभी भी चालू है, and फिर उसके बाद कहीं पर no facility भी है. तो अगर हमको देखना है कि इस particular joint monitoring program में सारे देशों को ये वाले जो पार्ट है लैडर के राइट हैंड साइड में जहाँ पे सरफेस वाटर है, ओपन डेफिकेशन है, नो फैसिलिटी से धीरे धीरे करके अनइम्प्रूव्ड होके, लिमिटेड होके, बेसिक से होके फाइनली सेफली मैनेज में जाना है. एंड ये सिर्फ हमारे हाउस होल्ड के लिए नहीं है, ये हाउस होल्ड के लिए जितना है उतना ज्यादा स्कूल के लिए भी है एंड उसके साथ साथ हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटी के लिए भी है. So we want to ensure that when we are monitoring through this particular GMP ladder, you're covering households, you're covering school, you're covering Anganwadis, and you're also covering the healthcare facilities. So it should be borne in mind that for Gram Panchayats or anyone who's doing monitoring, these are the three areas that requires a end-to-end monitoring system. Now from this, let's go into a little bit deeper कि what do you really mean by basic to safely manage? जो हमने अभी बताया है ये जो particular different ladder का different रंग है, तो हम लोग देख रहे थे कि नो वाटर से जो ये जर्नी है कि अनइम्प्रूव्ड होके, लिमिटेड होके, बेसिक से सेफली मैनेज, तो बेसिक से सेफली मैनेज जाने के लिए हम इसको कैसे डिफाइन कर सकते हैं. एंड दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई रियली वांट यू टू फोकस दैट डिफाइनिंग व्हाट नीड्स टू बी मॉनिटर्ड. हमको एग्जैक्टली क्या मॉनिटर करना है एंड व्हाट डज ग्राम पंचायत रिक्वायर टू मॉनिटर. So the ladder is there on the left hand side. Now when you see, the first one comes the drinking water. तो अगर हम लोग एकदम नीचे की तरफ चले जाएंगे, ये उस देशों में है जहाँ पे अभी भी ड्रिंकिंग वाटर के लिए लोगों को रिवर पे जाना पड़ता है, डैम से डायरेक्टली कलेक्ट करते, लेक में जाके वो लोग अपना पानी कलेक्ट करते हैं. बट ये पर्टिकुलर लैडर के जो लास्ट रंग से हमको अभी ये ऊपर के रंग तक आना है. सो व्हेन वी लुक एट द बेसिक ड्रिंकिंग वाटर, we look at certain improved sources and this is provided collection time is not more than 30 minutes. But right now, we are in 2022. So our idea is to move from basic to safely managed. For safely managed monitoring, the Gram Panchayats have to see that all the drinking water is from an improved source. It is accessible within the premises. घर के अंदर वो accessible हो, या institution के अंदर वो accessible हो. And the water needs to be free from any fecal and chemical priority contamination. कोई भी fecal and chemical contamination अगर उस पानी में है, तो फिर हम उसको safely managed drinking water नहीं बोल सकते और हमको इस particular ladder पे पहुंचना है. Now from drinking water, if we move through sanitation, again it starts with the lowest rung, which you can see. This is talking about disposal of human feces कि कहीं पर भी झाड़ी में जाके फॉरेस्ट में बाहर ओपन डेफिकेशन चल रहा है, तो हमारे देश को वहां से या बहुत सारे कंट्री अभी भी वहां पे है, बट इंडिया अभी बहुत ज्यादा आगे निकल गया है. वी आर इन द बेसिक पार्ट जहाँ पे हम बोलते हैं कि हमको इम्प्रूव फैसिलिटीज, सो हर घर में हमको ट्विन टॉयलेट्स मिला है एंड जो हम लोग अपने घर में इस्तेमाल करते हैं और किसी और के साथ शेयर नहीं करते. बट इस पर्टिकुलर जर्नी से अगर सेफली मैनेज की तरफ मूव करना है, जो अभी हम सब ग्राम पंचायत में इस चीज को मॉनिटर कर रहे कि एक तो उनके पास इम्प्रूव फैसिलिटी होना चाहिए जो किसी के साथ वो शेयर नहीं करते, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट द एक्सक्रीटा आर सेफली डिस्पोज्ड ऑफ इन situ or removed and treated off site. यहाँ पे the most emphasis is on the solid and liquid waste management, the fecal sludge management. अगर जो feces कलेक्ट होता है उसको इन situ उसको डिस्पोज नहीं किया जाता है, या उसको कलेक्ट करके जो fecal sludge प्लांट से वहां पे डिस्पोज नहीं किया जाता है, तो फिर हम लोग नहीं बोल सकते कि इंडिया या हमारे ग्राम पंचायत सेफली मैनेज की पोजीशन में या लैडर के रंग पे पहुंचा है. तो इसको करने के लिए प्लीज इसको ध्यान रखिए कि ये पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट्स को आपको कैप्चर करना पड़ेगा, इम्प्लीमेंट करना पड़ेगा एंड इसको मॉनिटर करना पड़ेगा. Now the last one, which is our hand washing, and it's a very, very important bit. Given the entire COVID crisis, we have seen that how much money we have spent on hand washing. It's such an important and effective way of influencing a lot of our water sanitation activities. So the first bit is that right now in India, we are at the basic level. And what we are saying is that availability of a hand washing facility with soap and water at home, that is where we are. And that is something where we need to focus and monitor. We have still not reached the safely managed. Perhaps that's something that we can discuss later. So from basic to safely managed, now when we ask what are we monitoring and what not yet, या क्या ऐसी चीज है जो शायद से हम मॉनिटर कर रहे पर वो इनफ नहीं है. तो पहला चीज जो हम मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं कि हम लोग हाउस होल्ड के मॉनिटरिंग करते हैं. हमारे पास नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्विस से या बहुत सारे डेटा पॉइंट से आपको पता है कि NSSO या बहुत सारे जो नेशनल सर्विस है उनके पास से हमको हाउस होल्ड लेवल के नेशनल लेवल डेटा मिलता है. We also have certain school level surveys which helps us understand the national picture of India, where the situation of water sanitation hygiene is. There is also certain amount of data that is captured in the healthcare facilities and hospitals, which is also another very important bit of the institution. So when we look at this entire picture, we see all these blue blobs, right? And what are we saying कि हमको क्या-क्या चीज हमको monitor कर रहे हैं और जो हमारे पास data available है. So definitely we know and we are monitoring access to improved sanitation in household. We also have gender sensitive school toilets. That data is available. We are monitoring it and Gram Panchayats are also looking at it. This is primarily done through the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar, which is also right now ongoing. We also have certain data set which has started getting collected in national surveys for the hand washing with soap and water in household. When we look at the hand washing with soap and water in school, that data is still available. We have data from NFHs on menstrual hygiene product use, which is again another very, very important part of our water sanitation hygiene implementation. And finally, we do have the access to pipe water supply. This is something that we are monitoring through the Jal Jeevan Mission dashboard with the support of Ministry of Jal Shakti. Now, let us go and look at what are the areas that we're still not monitoring and which is not enough. आंगनवाड़ी जो प्री स्कूल में वहां पे डेटा हमको अभी तक हम मॉनिटर नहीं कर पाते. इंडिया में काफी लैक है डेटा इस चीज के ऊपर. एंड स्पेसिफिकली व्हेन वी लुक एट द डिफरेंट पब्लिक प्लेसेस जहां पे हम बोलते हैं वल्नरेबल सिचुएशन को भी हमको टारगेट करना है, तो कितना डेटा एक्चुअली अवेलेबल है फ्रॉम द पब्लिक प्लेसेस, वॉशिंग पब्लिक प्लेसेस, दैट्स स्टिल अ क्वेश्चन. Just moving to the last bit, which is the big data, that is something that I will request in this forum for all of you to start thinking. Are we really thinking, जब हम पानी के बारे में बोलते हैं, हम लेफ्ट हैंड साइड से शुरू करते हैं, water quality for free of fecal and chemical contamination is safely managed to reach करने के लिए, this is a very, very important indicator. This is a very, very important component that we need to track. We are not able to track till now. ये अभी भी कुछ एक पर्टिकुलर जगह है जहाँ पे ग्राम पंचायत and हमारे स्टेट एंड डिस्ट्रिक्ट को और भी ज्यादा ट्रैकिंग करना पड़ेगा. Then similarly, moving to solid and liquid waste management, that's again another area that we need to ensure there is proper monitoring indicator and trackers. Water and sanitation and healthcare facilities, there are bits and pieces of data that's available but not there in the public domain. अगर पब्लिक डोमेन में वो डेटा नहीं है तो बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करने के लिए, प्लानिंग करने के लिए, स्पेशली एट ग्राम पंचायत लेवल, दैट कैन बी अ डिफिकल्टी. देन लुकिंग एट विदिन द हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटी, हैंड हाइजीन फैसिलिटी कहाँ पे लेबर रूम में वो लगाया गया है या कितने कितने जगह पे सोप एंड अल्कोहल बेस्ड हैंड रब अवेलेबल है, ये पर्टिकुलर डेटा हमारे पास अभी उसका मॉनिटरिंग नहीं हो रहा है. Healthcare waste management, which is again another very crucial part, and we have seen the importance during COVID-19 pandemic. We do not have much data available on that. Finally, going to the last point, which is climate resilient wash. कहीं पर भी हमको ये पता नहीं चलता है कि सारे जो वाटर सैनिटेशन हाइजीन फैसिलिटीज लगा है वो कितना हद तक क्लाइमेट रेजिलिएंट है. अगर कोई ड्राउट या फ्लड या कोई भी और आफत आ जाए, कैन वी एक्चुअली एंश्योर दैट दीस पर्टिकुलर फैसिलिटीज are in place or are they being monitored? So this is another point that we really need to take care of. Now, this will be my last slide, which is talking about the community level monitoring. And the idea is that we are trying to strengthen the data system and capacities of Gram Panchayat. What do we need to do at the community level in order to ensure that आप ये सारे जो sustainable development goal है, जो joint monitoring plan में पूरे विश्व में वो monitor करता है safely manage के लिए, हम उसको ग्राम पंचायत में कैसे करें? पहले लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में देखते हैं, यहाँ पे हमको क्या करना है कि पहला चीज जो ग्राम पंचायत को करना है, that is identifying the data gaps with respect to the sustainable development goal at state level, district and ग्राम पंचायत level. एंड अगले पिछले स्लाइड में आपने देखा है कि बहुत सारी एरिया है जहाँ पे अभी भी वो मॉनिटरिंग करने का बहुत ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. So for moving from that, if we can establish certain integrated system and we have certain level service level benchmark, that is where we want to reach, and that is what Gram Panchayats require to do. The use of IoT, Internet of Things, use of data management tools, mobile applications, and different platforms which can be easily used at the Gram Panchayat level in order to create that integrated system. That is where we want to reach. Once you create such integrated system for community level monitoring, you require designated and trained staff at Panchayat level to collect and to analyze data. अगर आपके पास वो ह्यूमन रिसोर्स नहीं है, अगर आप उनको ट्रेनिंग नहीं दिए हो कि उसको डेली जाके या वीकली जाके, मंथली जाके क्या मॉनिटर करना है, क्या डेटा कलेक्ट करना है और उसका एनालिसिस कैसे करना है, तो फिर ये पूरा सिस्टम सेटअप करके भी कोई फायदा नहीं होगा. सो ये पहला चीज सिस्टम सेटअप करने के बाद हमको लोग भी चाहिए जो ये काम चीज को कर सके. फाइनल पॉइंट में होता है कि ग्रीवेंस रिड्रेसल सिस्टम, where we are talking about, do you have within your Gram Panchayat, at your district level, state level, grievance redressal system for communities to report on wash services. का इतने सारे जो हम लोग इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कर रहे, प्रोग्राम सेटअप कर रहे, अगर उस वॉश सर्विसेज अच्छी तरह से ढंग से नहीं मिलता है एंड यूजर्स को, हाउस होल्ड्स को, पॉपुलेशन को, तो वहां पे वो लोग ग्रीवेंस अपना कहीं पर दर्ज कर सकते हैं या नहीं. We also require data driven village action plan. अगर डेटा कलेक्ट नहीं होता है, डेटा अगर हमारे पास नहीं है, तो विलेज एक्शन प्लान जो हमारे ग्राम सभा में हमको बात करना है, जो PWSC मीटिंग में हमको बात करना है, then those will be just not data driven and will not be based on certain concrete actionables. So it's very important to monitor the data and have the data for it. And finally, we are looking at wash enlightened citizens demanding for good wash services. जब आपके पास डेटा होता है, जब वो डेटा लोगों को मालूम चलता है, जब पता है कि हमने पर्टिकुलर कंप्लेन दर्ज किया है और उस चीज को सॉल्व किया गया है, तो लोग धीरे धीरे इस चीज के बारे में और इंटरेस्ट लेगा. एंड आवर आइडिया इज कि एक टाइम पे होना चाहिए जहाँ पे सारे सिटीजन डिमांड करे कि बहुत अच्छा वॉश सर्विसेज मिले, एंड जो भी सारे क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस वॉश प्रोग्राम की तरफ हम बढ़ रहे हैं उस चीज को वो अपनाएं. सो आई विल स्टॉप माय प्रेजेंटेशन हियर and I will request Professor Ramesh to continue with the next part of the session. Thank you. Dr. Ramesh, over to you.
Thank you, Kaushiki. Thank you. That was a very good. That was a very good overview you gave. Let me share my slide and get started. I think my slide is open.
Dr. Ramesh, you please share your screen.
You see the screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. So that was a very good overview, and let me just go down if the further. I mean, when I thought when I start, I can just start with what is benchmark. I mean, perhaps it is possible some of us know, some of us do not know, because this is something new to people working in rural water supply. Perhaps those who are working in urban water supply, they may be aware of this, and those of us working in rural water supply, and what is this service level benchmark, all that we are talking about, maybe that might be something new. I thought, okay, let me just start with this one. So this is about standard, we can say what standard key performance indicators should be collected from the WASH facilities that would allow states or the ministry to understand their level of performance. So if we want to understand the level of performance in a village, and what are the key indicators that we will look for, and to have that key indicators means that we need data. We need data. That's what Kaushiki is mentioning about, that what data we need and where we have data, where we don't have data, all that she's mentioning. So this benchmarking analysis can tell us about the performance of WASH facilities in the given state or district based on specific indicators, such as it can be about coverage, what is the percentage of households covered, and the quality of service and operating efficiency, financing. All these can be, we can come to know all these only when we have the relevant data, when we have indicators, when we have some benchmark and standards. So benchmarking can serve as a foundation on which additional analysis can be done. So this is some basic understanding. For the purpose of basic understanding, I thought I'll give. And now, when I trace back to just to see the idea of how this idea of benchmarking or service level standards it came about, and I keep going backwards, and I find that there is mention, the first time mentioned in 1960, there is a mention about this service standard. We need to have service standards, and then there was no much serious work about this later for about 12 years. In 72, again, it has been taken up seriously and it is being spoken about. And then, like you see here, 91, 2007, 2011, up to that period, there has been discussion about this one. And so because of that, there is a lot of standards now, and at least in the municipal level, at the urban water supply, in the corporations, we have those standards. I mean, that is exclusively about water supply if you take, and to some extent sanitation you can say, but it is very, very minimal when it comes to wastewater or solid waste management, things like that. And of course, the school sanitation, there are some data available, we'll be able to say about that. So in domestic water supply, the expression in common usage since 1991 was, it was just binary, that is improved water supply, unimproved water supply. That's all where the expression. And then with that, conceptualizing the service levels as a rungs of ladder. That's what Kaushik was mentioning about. It provides a useful metaphor for incremental progress. That if you are using an unimproved water supply, then how do you move into improved water supply? So when we talk about this, we just had a binary that I told you: improved water supply, unimproved water supply. And how do we define improved water supply? How do we define unimproved water supply? This is how this discussion has started. And town or urban areas, urban water supply, it has improved a lot. We can say, going by the service standards, we'll be able to talk. But when it comes to rural, do we have any service standard? We have, but very minimal we have, we can say. As of now, perhaps even in the earlier programs of water supply and in the current Jal Jeevan Mission also, we have mentioned about quantity, quality, accessibility, and dependability of service and affordability. All these mentioned. This is what we mean when we talk about service level standards. And people talk about having enough water, having not enough water. How much water is enough water? When can somebody say that I don't get enough water? Right, that's the idea when you talk about quantity. People complain, even if they get 70 liter, 100 liter, people might say that no, I'm not getting enough water, right? But how much water is enough water? That's what service standard is about. So as a researcher, if I go to a village, I should be able to have my standards to be able to say if a given village has enough water, if a given number of households, do they get enough water or not, and what is the quality? Is it safe to have that water, right? And what is the accessibility, and then dependability of services, and reliability, dependability, and then affordability. When you talk about affordability, the meaning is that we know the Government of India says that we'll give you only the capital investment required. And when it comes to operation and maintenance, it is yours. It is for the Gram Sabha to decide. It is for the Gram Panchayat to see their own source of fund to meet the operation and maintenance expenses. So that is about affordability. When you fix a tariff, you need to see how much people will be able to pay. Accordingly, is it about 50 rupees a month or the 100 rupees a month? And accordingly, they may have to decide. So, and then in 2011 onwards, we started talking about the inclusive service delivery because of the inclusive policy, right? So then we come to know that we are providing water in a Gram Panchayat, and we say we have covered the entire Gram Panchayat. We say that, but what happens often is there are eight Gram Panchayat, 8 villages in a Gram Panchayat. You find only 3-4 villages getting water, the remaining 2-3 not getting water. So inequitable supply was noticed. Then we started talking about 2011 onwards, equity, inclusiveness, all that, and covering the SC/ST habitations, remote places, all that. So, I mean, just if I take one example as quantity, and how did they arrive at this 55 liter per capita? If you go deeper, you understand, somebody might question, they say 55 liter per capita, how did they arrive at this 55 liter per capita? And there are some state governments now saying that, no, we'll provide up to 70. There are state governments saying we'll provide up to 100 liter. So when we say 55, how do we arrive at this 55? And if we, and now Jal Jeevan Mission guideline is saying, in addition to the 55 liter per capita, if that area has a lot of cattle population, then you go for additional 30 liter more. 30 liter, that means 85 liter per capita. Suppose you are in a pandemic situation like COVID, you can consider 15-20 liter more. So that goes up to 100 liters. So, I mean, this, when there is a pandemic, then how much water is required for hygiene related purposes. So that's another area we can. And that is about quantity. When you talk about water safety or water quality, there are BAA standards, but if you go, what are the possible tests on a day? In a day, what and what tests possible? I mean, we can go by the color, odor, taste, turbidity, pH, chloride, total alkalinity, residual chlorine level. Going at least these 8 parameters, that is, at least going by these 8 parameters, we should be able to say that the water is safe to drink. Right. So I think I'll skip some of the slides. And here again, Kaushik was mentioning about this WHO and joint monitoring program, all that. And there again, they have also analyzed and researched and found that how much water can we say enough for a person, and that we can say that it might lead to, going by the health standard, it might lead to very high level of risk. Suppose in a place they are getting only 5 liters, let us say 5 liters. That means they are at a very high level of health concern. And then how much do we say basic access? How much do we say as intermediate access? And how much we say as optimal access? And I find there are panchayats claiming to be model panchayats, and they give about 170 liter per day, and claiming to be model villages. I won't subscribe to that idea, because you can go up to optimal level, fine, 70 liter per capita, and you have justification now because of COVID, you give up to 100 liter per capita, like it happens in the case of Telangana. But if you are providing 170 liter, I would say there are two problems here. One problem is that that we are not going by the standard that is different. One problem is that it is going to lead to over pumping of water. That is one. The second is it is going to lead to a fat electricity bill, because you are pumping water more than what is required there, right? And it is going to lead to a very high electricity bill. So those are things that we need to bear in mind when we talk about the service standard. Why 55 liter? Why 70 liter? Why 100 liter? All that. And here in the Indian context, SDG, we know that there is a national indicator framework and developed by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and they are tracking SDG, and they have 16 indicators related to WASH. We find there are about 16 indicators they are using related to WASH. I hope you remember, you can recollect, I was mentioning initially we had only binary, improved, not improved, and now In SDG, they are tracking about 16 indicators, we can say. And but if you see where is this data from, where are they taking the data from? It is all secondary from the JJM dashboard or SBM dashboard, or you can say from the Ministry of Jal Shakti they are taking, and it is not directly collected sample-based data. We cannot say that. And based on this framework, water services indices have been constructed now. There was a time we were using the ladder from basic level to intermediate level, all that we were discussing earlier. So from ladder, now we have moved to water services index, and the national indicator framework is about that water services index. And by water services index, what we mean is that it combines a set of measurable indicators, like 16 indicators I was telling you about. So it combines a set of measurable indicators to be able to arrive at a single measure, single number. And this single number helps you to rank states, to rank districts, to rank blocks, where a given state stands in terms of water service delivery, and where a given state stands in terms of sanitation, and where a state stands in terms of solid waste management. That is possible through this. And so this water service index is a single composite metric that tells you the relative position of each state or district in terms of service level. And this is what the national indicator framework is following. And we are into this now after, you can say about 2015, we are into this. And if you see the data availability now, most frequently we go into these data sets. And the NSSO 78th round, if you see, they have included 14 indicators. Earlier, if you see the NFHS data, they had just two indicators saying, do you have a toilet facility or not? Do you have water facility or not? Finished. 2 questions, and that's all they had. And now we are going into 14 indicators, 16 indicators. And if you see the urban water supply, and they have 46 indicators. And the meaning is that when you are able to measure what is getting measured, then you get to know where we stand and what action we need to take. That is the importance of data that Kaushiki was mentioning about. Right. But if you see for solid waste management, wastewater management, or recycle, reuse, we talk about all these and in training programs, but you see the data and there is absolutely no data available. And you can see the dashboard of the Jal Jeevan Mission also, that there are 100, today there are about 100 districts that have declared, they have covered 100% already, 100% coverage already completed in about 100 districts. And in this, you can just go and see now also, with regard to wastewater management, 0. It is reported as 0. In the sense, in no place it has started. And the data, maybe in some places they have started, but we have not started collecting the data. But as of now, it is reported as 0. But it cannot be 0. There are panchayats that have started. Even I know for myself, we have visited villages where it is available. But the thing is that we don't have the data in place to be able to say that at least we have made about 15-16% progress or 20% progress. We don't have the data. That's it. And then I thought this is one of my pet areas, so I thought I will be able to show you this. This is about solid waste management progress monitoring. Suppose we want to monitor progress under solid waste management. How do we do that? And in solid waste management, this is how we look at this. And then in the subsequent slides, I have broken down into 3 so that it is visible for you. And here, one thing I see is about collection efficiency. The second is about treatment efficiency. And the third is about the result. And if you see the collection efficiency, that is about the total amount of waste collected in a given panchayat. Do we have the data? Do I have? And this, when we say total amount, it is total is 1. And within total, you must know how much is wet waste, how much is dry waste, how much is hazardous waste. We need to know that breakup also. So total, what is the total amount of waste collected per day, per month, in a year? We'll be able to calculate. If we have per day data, per month data, then it goes like that. And so that is, when you talk about, one is having this data, how much waste is generated in a given panchayat, that is number 1. And number 2, percentage of households that actually segregate waste at household level. Is it not taking place at all? Is it not taking place at all? 0? or no, 25% of the households are segregating. No, 50% of the households are segregating. 75% of the households are, over 90% of the households are segregating. And then this many households are segregating, and they are that tells you about segregating and segregated collection taking place. So this is about collection efficiency. Is it 25% collected or 50% collected, 75%, or we have reached more than 90%? This is one. The next is about treatment efficiency. Okay, you collected segregated waste, and what is the amount of wet waste actually processed? What is the amount of dry waste actually processed? What is the amount of hazardous waste that is actually processed? Right. So it goes into respective streams, right? So when they go into respective streams, and that tells you about the treatment efficiency. That tells you about the treatment efficiency. And the last part is about the cumulative amount of plastics bottles connected to the recycle chain. This is what we want, because wet waste anybody can manage. Wet waste, even at the household level, they can manage. But when it comes to plastics and dry waste, that is where the challenge is. So what is the amount of cumulative plastics and bottles, all these sent to the recycle system? And then number 8 is very important to me. That is about the amount of residual waste that ended up in the landfill. Suppose I am able to claim that only 10% goes to the landfill, the remaining 90% I am able to treat, right? Then I am being successful. I can even call myself as zero waste panchayat. If I can say for sure that only 10% goes to the landfill. I keep saying the expression landfill. I don't say a dump yard, right? I'm deliberately using this one. So if 100% in a place where 100% was going to the landfill, now I am saying that only 10% goes to the landfill, 90% treated in the respective streams. That is what we are looking forward to. So can we track this when it comes to waste management, solid waste management? And then the amount of revenue generated, because we are talking about revenue generating or waste to wealth, all that. So amount of revenue generated, and the last could be percentage of expenditure met out of the income from the sale of waste. Right, you incur a certain expenditure in waste management, and what is the percentage of expenditure you are able to meet from the income you earned from waste management? Right? Is it surplus or deficit? I don't say that it must always be surplus. Let it be deficit. Then we can think about bringing in 15 Finance Commission Fund and others to be able to meet the critical gap. That is another. But at least do we have this data to be able to, or can we put panchayats in this and see where each panchayat stands, how much the collection efficiency, in terms of collection efficiency, where they stand, and in terms of treatment, where they stand, result, where they stand. So data aggregation at the panchayat level, that is very important. That's my point. And if you ask me in the last 2 slides here, what needs to be done? And what are our indicators under various components of WASH? And like I emphasized here, my emphasis is on waste management. So what are our indicators under various components of WASH at the national level? And that must come from the national level government only. And how do we collect this data to monitor progress? And service level benchmark should come from the ministry as standards and norms for rural areas. We cannot expect every panchayat to be having their own standards. So there must be a guideline or framework coming from the ministry for rural, like we have for urban. It must come from the rural, and exclusively for solid waste management, wastewater, all that. And since WASH is a state subject, the respective state shall issue relevant circulars, GOs, all that at the state. And for the district to implement, for the Gram Panchayats to adhere to and conform. What the Gram Panchayats can do is they can only adhere to and conform. If these are done, and when it is in place, those of us working in the WASH sector will be able to push it also to see that it is implemented. Right, but that must come in the first place from the national government as a regulatory framework for the districts to issue. And the next is the point is data aggregation should take place at the village level to be able to take action based on benchmark of performance. And this title here we called it strengthening Gram Panchayats to set up service benchmarks and monitoring. So we can capacitate the panchayats, but at the same time, this service standards also should come from the national and state governments. So the relevant guidelines, framework, advisory should come from the national government for the states to prepare their own framework. The GP shall adhere to and confirm. And this is where I think we need to move towards. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh. I think I cannot echo enough on the requirement at this hour, especially looking at the solid waste management. And I think that's a great framework, and perhaps like the group here can pick up from this particular bit. And I think the point that you made, that certain service level benchmark is important to be set up by ministries. I think that really holds a very important place here, given that with Jal Jeevan Mission, we are actually moving towards safely managed drinking water. And also looking at Swachh Bharat Mission, our part 2.0, we are there where we are looking at safely managed sanitation, where solid liquid waste management is an integral part of the flagship program. So really thanking you for bringing this up for the session. I will now request my colleague Rajiv from Bihar office just to introduce to Rajiv to all of you. He's from Bihar office. He's Swachh officer Bihar, looking after and leading the water portfolio. And really want to thank Rajiv for joining this, and especially sharing what exactly it's happening within Jal Jeevan Mission and what the Gram Panchayats in Bihar are doing. So Rajiv, thank you for joining, and please request you to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Kausiki, and thank you, Professor Ramesh, for enlightening remark around benchmark. So what essentially, if you can just confirm that people can see my screen.
Can you put it on the PPT mode? Yes, the screen is visible. Thanks, Rajiv.
Okay. So now this is full screen. So thank you for this opportunity. And what I am going to talk about is really the next level. So where you have seen the global perspective, then you have seen that if there need to be an architecture, then what it should be. What I am going to talk is the story from Bihar, and where I'll be explaining to you the architecture that Bihar has put in place for having the benchmark being monitored regularly. As the title says, so what Bihar is looking at, that they are looking water utility, and they are not trying to look it at Gram Panchayat level, but they are going much below the Gram Panchayat level, considering one of the challenges which Professor Ramesh has already said, that your data may say that Gram Panchayat have access to pipe water, but there may be 2 villages which are not being covered. So with this background, I'll start my presentation. So welcome all. And here we're going to show you a different Bihar water story. You have been hearing the flood water story perhaps, but this is a drinking water story. So ours, what we call in the state is Har Ghar Nal Ka Jal, little different from Har Ghar Jal, which you hear in Jal Jeevan Mission story. And our story has also started a little bit early. So we started sometime in 2016, say about 3 years earlier than the current national program that you are seeing. What it aims, that it aims to have a clean drinking water to every citizen in Bihar without any discrimination. When we say discrimination, meaning that at least the socioeconomic status should not be coming in the way of having the access to the water. Historically, in the country and in Bihar particularly, we had over dependence on the hand pumps. So if you look at the data longitudinally, before we started this program, only 4 to 5% people or the household having access to pipe water, which now has increased to 90% level currently. So there had been 3 departments, particularly I'll be talking here for the rural water. 2 departments, I beg your pardon, 2 departments is implementing the scheme. One is the Panchayati Raj department and other is the Public Health Engineering department. Both of them collectively covering 8,386 Gram Panchayat, and that will be divided into over 100,000 rural wards. And one typical wards will be of 100 households to 250 households, and that will amount to roughly about 1 point in the last count, because household is always evolving story and numbers gets increasing because of the division of households. So in the last data, 1.76 crore households were to be covered as per this scheme. So how we did it? So what is the benchmark for Bihar? To give you a snapshot of it, so we are talking and completely compliant with the SDG 6 benchmark. So we are talking about safe water availability at home at a higher service level, 70 LPCD, which is like 15 liter ahead of what we talk in the JJM, 45 LPCD. Here, the remarkable difference is that for large part of Bihar, what we're talking is the community managed which means that build, operate, and entire management being done by the committee, which is the representation of community, which is called Ward Implementation and Management Committee, which I'll come later. Then what has been the difference to reach to this benchmark, that it envisages that the market potential will be leveraged for operation and maintenance. So what essentially we're talking, that we're not going to have the large scale training for now for the plumbers or masons or electricians, but will be kind of utilizing or leveraging the market potential which is already there, these trained people. Then very clearly they have a good emphasis on the consumer satisfaction. So third party is linked to the satisfaction of the consumers. Here, when I say consumer, it is the household. And then quite departure from other places, here it is mandatory for the household to pay monthly water charges. This is very small amount, as Professor Ramesh again has said in his address. So here it is token to start with. So it is 1 rupee a day for each household. So it is 30 rupees per month for the household, and regular monitoring is the part of architecture everywhere. I'll come with some of the design considerations. So predominantly, which is not here I have written, but Bihar for now, we do not know the future story yet, but for now we have abundance of groundwater water. So almost all, barring very few schemes, are based on the groundwater. Despite we have large surface water, especially the perennial rivers like Ganges and their tributaries, but we are not for now relying on it. So guiding principle is that access to all. Then we add in the benchmark talking about the adequacy of the water. And as I have explained in the last slide, it is 70 liter per CB. In terms of the quality parameters, there is a commitment that this will adhere to the BIS 10,500 quality. And then there is a complementary program, Har Ghar Nal Ka Jal, is Jal Jeevan Mission, which also talks about that how we can also sustain our drinking water sources by various provisions like large scale plantation, then revival of traditional bodies. Some of the policy change which has been done by the government to have this really rolled out at pan-state level is that they have changed in their Panchayati Raj Act. And Panchayati Raj Act has made provision for the ward level unit, and the unit for the implementation has been recognized as ward. It has two notable benefits. One, that ward is very concentrated and contiguous community, so, and which is roughly about 100 to 250 households. So the situation that the tail of the scheme may not be having the water supply, and also considering we are largely plain area barring few districts in the south, so those consideration can be met. So ward has been taken as a unit. So this has two distinct benefits, as I have said. Then considering the CPPHO norm, every household was to be given at least one household connection. When we say one, usually here it was recommended to 3, meaning that there will be 3 tap connections at least, one in the toilet, 2, as Professor Ramesh and Kausiki has also said initially. So one connection in the toilets, another one in the kitchen, and the other one for other household purposes. So that was the idea, but at least one has been maintained across. Then in the PHED, I have been telling you the story in the Panchayati Raj, but in the PHED, they have third party all across. So there, even the design, build, operate, and transfer is done by the third party. So they manage it. There, the community linkages are yet to be established in the form that is there in the Panchayat managed scheme. Both the department, PHED and Panchayati Raj department, have long-term operation and maintenance policy to achieve the benchmark. Some of the institutional arrangements. So the first one that you are seeing is kind of uniform across India, water and sanitation committee at the district level. But here at the block level, block Panchayati Raj officer and district level district Panchayati Raj officers are nodal. And in the PHED area, which I have not written here because primarily I'm talking about the Panchayat, but executive engineers are there. Very important, ward implementation and management committee are the responsible committee on the ground level. In terms of finance, 14th and 15th Finance Commission money has been leveraged. Some of the state fund has also been leveraged, and they're just separate, which is unique and can be replicated across. So there's a annual allocation for operation maintenance and to the level of ward implementation and management committee. So the situation in the future that the WIMC will not be having any money which he had earmarked for operation and maintenance, or which is on the will of the Pradhan in the Gram Panchayat, is not going to be the case as per the architecture that I've done. Then charge collection, I have already talked about it. Very important here again that some of the business principles government has tried adopting to reach the benchmark and continue doing so. So one of the initiative which government has started is that user charges, say if I am the person responsible in the ward to collect user charges, then I will get half of the money as an incentive if I can have 90% or more household giving the user charges. So some of these market principles has been tried utilizing it. So as I have explained you this entire architecture and the achievement that state government has, now I'll be coming in the next two slides that how they are monitoring it. And when I talked about the consumer satisfaction, what are the ways or the grievance redressal that they are going to do. So every stage of implementation has been closely monitored, right from the Gram Panchayat level to the level of the principal secretary in the state level. And they have utilized ICT platform. So you can log into PRD Nischay, which is like Panchayati Raj and Nischay stands for the 7 resolve, which the current government had. So you can see there, and there are dashboard which can be seen for various achievements at all levels. Then there is a common grievance redressal line which is toll free, and anyone can lodge the complaint. Interestingly, when you lodge the complaint, even if you are in the urban area, from this common number, it will route it through the respective department. So that could be PHED or Panchayati Raj department. Public can also monitor the resolution of direct grievances. Public can really see that the grievances that they have shared, whether that had been addressed or not addressed. And these interfaces are being facilitated through a specialized application, which is like app and which run on Android, as well as web. Time-bound resolution. One of the things which is on the card possibly is that these are going to come into the Special Service Act, which here in Bihar, there are many services which comes into that. So a responsible person, if in a certain time bound, they are not able to provide those services, they are liable to further punitive action. So that's also on the card and in the future maybe. On the right hand side, you can see some of the reports. So you can see that ward profile entry, you can see, scheme wise report, you can see the grievance which has been there, has that been addressed or not. So these are the reports that can be seen by anyone. This is open for the public. Some of the things which I wanted and your special attention is that how these service commitments are, what is the commitment of the government. So you can see that it is written that जलापूर्ति योजना में लीकेज है, यदि कोई साधारण लीकेज है और साधारण मेजर और माइनर है, तो what is the time frame that is given to correct that, and who are responsible or who are the monitoring officers for that. And there you will see that Ward Kriyanvayan Prabandhan Samiti or the Takniki Saheb, they are actually at the Gram Panchayat level, not even they are the below Gram Panchayat level. So these are the responsible people, and those are the people who are responsible for Khand Panchayati Raj and JJM. So this is about the service commitment that government has within this. Apart from this, one of the things which government that is halfway through possibly, as Koski has said in her initial presentation, that government has planned to utilize IoT across all to look at least to start with, that how much water being pumped from each and how many hours the pumping has done or distribution has done. So those are on the card in coming time. One of the maybe the concluding thing that I want to tell, that what I have explained to you is the architecture which government had started implementing. And I'm sure that as they have reached to the saturation level in terms of access, operation and maintenance are going and is going to hinge a lot on this architecture in coming time, to not have a situation that an FHS and an SSO are telling a very different story than the story which the normal MIS of the day says. Over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv, and really well shown the whole architecture, and I think this is for the participants in this particular conclave. जो हमने अभी ग्लोबल मॉनिटरिंग सिस्टम देखा, उसके बाद प्रोफेसर रमेश ने हमको एक सर्विस लेवल बेंचमार्क समझाए। सिमिलरली राजीव के प्रेजेंटेशन में बहुत क्लियरली कि कौन से आर्किटेक्चर एस्टैब्लिश किया गया है इन ऑर्डर टू इंश्योर दैट द जल जीवन मिशन का जो पानी पहुंच रहा है वो ठीक तरह से पहुंच रहा है क्या, उसका जो अवेलेबिलिटी थ्रू आउट द ईयर, कंज्यूमर सैटिस्फैक्शन, व्हिच यू सॉ देयर इज अ ग्रीवेंस रिड्रेसल number in Bihar which is working, and also this concept of taking user charges. So monitoring is happening at all levels, and this is definitely where what we are talking and we are aiming for all other gram panchayats. जो दूसरे शहर है, जो दूसरे स्टेट है, सारे लोगों के लिए हम ये सेफली मैनेज तक पहुंचने का यही हम लोग आप लोगों को रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं. I think this is something that all of you can take up. So we have one important bit. तो आपने पूरे जो चीज देखे कि आर्किटेक्चर के बारे में भी पता चला. I think the last point which Rajiv made कि लोग कौन है, ये मॉनिटर कौन करेगा. So professionalization is also a very important bit, and we actually had planned Shri Kushwant Sethi sir to be here. Unfortunately, there is some really urgent matter that and he could not join this call. But on his behalf, because we want to touch upon this professionalization part, quite important bit of the monitoring session, I will request Dr. Ramesh if you can just quickly touch upon the most important bits. Ki log kaun hai, technique, what are the type of technologies and what are the kind of professionalization system that the states can administer in order to create such a strong monitoring system. I think that will be really helpful. So Dr. Ramesh, if you can just quickly come in.
Thank you for inviting again. And because we work closely with the Ministry of Panchayat Raj, I am to some extent aware of what's going on with the Ministry of Panchayat Raj and what they are planning about these service level standards. Although I cannot say that they have started monitoring, as Kaushiki is saying that they have started monitoring and what data they are monitoring, all that. I would not say that they have gone to that level, but I am happy that they have moved to the level of talking about professionalism in Gram Panchayat level also. So they call it professionalizing wash services in the panchayats. And then this came about to them because of two reasons. One is that the Ministry of Jal Shakti now is coming out with several new things like promote solar-based water pumping systems wherever required. That is one. And then see if you can go for IoT tools or sensor-based applications where you will be able to come to know the residual chlorine level, or if there is a leakage in some place, through a sensor system, you should be able to come to know that there is a leakage in a given place. Just sitting in your room through your computer system, you should come to know that there is a leakage going on somewhere. And also like I mentioned, the chlorine level in water. And I do not know how many of our water supply operators or pump operators are trained in that. If they really know how much of chlorine to use in 1,000-liter water, I mean, they are chlorinating, it's going on. Right. So, and we need to know the residual chlorine level that in water is at acceptable level. So that we should come to know through sensor-based applications if possible. So that's the language now the Ministry of Jal Shakti is talking about, that we need to move to the next level when we talk about giving functional house tape connection at every household. So, and in this context, and incidentally, this 15th Finance Commission also came in place. And the 15th Finance Commission fund, and also we know that 60% of that fund can be used for water sanitation related purposes. So combining these two, the Ministry of Panchayat Raj now is making a move that why not we professionalize wash services in the panchayats, and for that why not we get into some kind of capacity building exercises. So I would say that they have started this kind of capacity building exercises, and then next they need to move to the levels of setting benchmarks and service standards, and then monitoring them, all that they need to move into. So for that, what they are proposing is, one is that the panchayat, there are panchayats in panchayats meetings, we come to know often they say that there is quite a lot of panchayat is expected to do. It is about road, it is about light, it is about narega, it is agriculture, horticulture. There is quite a lot of panchayat is expected to do, and do they really have the capacity to do that? And even, I mean, technical manpower or even to coordinate all these, how many people are there in a panchayat to be able to do all this? So in that case, if a panchayat is saying that, you see, I am not versed in solid waste management, for example, and I have never been into this. Maybe it was with the municipalities and town panchayats were doing, and now you are expecting a panchayat to do that, and all of a sudden you expect a panchayat to develop the capacity and deliver this. And how would it be possible? And you are talking about the IoT applications, sensor-based applications, all that, and you expect the panchayats to do that. And do we really have that? And if you think like that, and it is possible, you can think of, like any town panchayat or municipality is doing, you can think of contracting out. You can engage third parties, professional third parties who will be able to deliver these services for you. And when you engage a professional third party, then you need to, I mean, that brings in the question of being able to monitor what they deliver. What do you monitor what they deliver? In terms of, if it is water supply, it is in terms of the quantity, quality, attending to the repairs and the leakages, all that. So then this brought them to think that, okay, we need to have service standards in place. So when we have to get into an agreement, service contract agreement with the third party, and what do you write in the contract? What do you write in the contract? What is it that you expect from the third party? What they should deliver? So this brings the question of monitoring, being able to monitor. You need data, you need indicators to be able to make payment accordingly. Otherwise, I would not make the payment, or you are eligible only for part payment. Those questions come in here. So for that, they have started capacity building, and even this contracting out or third-party engagement, they are talking in three different terms. One is, a panchayat can consider giving full operation and maintenance to an NGO specialized in water sanitation, or it can be a self-help group fully trained in that, or any private agency that is willing to take it up. So complete full operation and maintenance given to some NGO or specialized. That is one way of doing. The second way of doing that they suggest is that you can go in for just HR contract. You need professional manpower, otherwise you have everything else, but you need professional manpower to be able to deliver these services. So you go for HR contract only. There should be like we have this skilling mission, and using the skilling mission, there it's possible some NGOs and others can have skilled manpower, employ those manpower only. So the entire operation and maintenance is with the panchayat, but the manpower has have been hired from external agency. That's another way of doing it. And the third way of doing it that they say is the contracting out only for the utilities. Only for the, we'll take up the operation and maintenance, we'll do the HR, everything we have, human resource required, all we have, but you take care of all these facilities, infrastructure created intact. For that, utility contract only. Give, the facilities only are contracted out, in the sense they have to take care of the maintenance of all these. Minor preventive maintenance, breakdown maintenance, minor maintenance, all that kind of maintenance, the third party has to take care. But when it comes to daily operation maintenance, all that operation related work, the Panchayat will take care. So the Ministry of Panchayat Raj is proposing this kind of, giving this kind of proposals to the Panchayats to consider. Their point is that Panchayat delivering these services does not always have to be Panchayat managing. If you think that you cannot do it, engage a professional third party who can deliver this. And one question that comes along with this, where do you pay from? And where do you pay from? For that, you need to go for user fees collection. You need to go for 15 Finance Commission fund money. And that way, you should be able to pay the third party. That's the idea. Thank you. Thank you. And for this, they have developed also some modules. They have developed some modules also. And they are conducting a series of Ministry of Panchayat Raj, and we are engaged also in the development of training modules and in conducting training programs. And next year also, April 22 onwards, we have a series of training in this kind of professionalizing wash services. We have a series of training also.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. That's quite an insight from Ministry of Panchayat Raj. It's a very important initiative, and I want to congratulate that, Ministry of Panchayat Raj is actually thinking about the professionalization, which is quite crucial. And I really like the point you made कि अगर service level benchmark होगा ही नहीं तो पता क्या चलेगा कि क्या monitor करना है. So it's very important that there are service level benchmark established, and then we have professional people who are able to monitor that in order to ensure कि इतने जो investment हम कर रहे हैं वो actually लोगों तक पहुंच रहा है and वो काम आगे बढ़ रहा है. After this, I would request Geeta, my colleague, to take us through two small video. So one video, we will see that the different services within Jal Jeevan Mission, Swachh Bharat Mission, and the type of work that has already happened. And then we will quickly and sort of hear from Miss Edla. She's also here, Subhanallah Ajit from Sarpanch from Telangana, that what exactly they are doing within their Gram Panchayat. So it will be a short video. So Geeta, if you can please share your screen and the video, that would be helpful.
Yes, Kaushiki, just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Please also let me know if you are able to hear and see the
village with nearly 300 houses with a population of 1,100. Though the village is small, it has national level ideals. There is cleanliness everywhere, and every house has its own toilet setup. Everyone, including children and elderly, use the toilet because of which there is no open defecation. Any instance of open defecation unknowingly is also charged ₹500 as fine, as decided by the village committee. A monitoring committee called Nigha has been set up to ensure this. No one has broken this rule till date.
As a part of 30 days MNREGA program, at our households, we are able to build 100% toilets. We have built toilets and we are using them. In comparison to the past, our village is quite ideal today.
There is no visible stagnation of water in this village, and neither do they have any underground drainage systems. So when there is a question of what happens to the water used by the households proudly showcase their soak pits. All the water used in the households is collected in the soak pits without any wastage. The village has soak pits near public drinking water supply tanks and near public places to avoid any stagnation and wastage of water. Therefore, we cannot see any water stagnation in the village. Due to this, there is no breeding of ground mosquitoes and not even during rainy season, leading to reduced diseases burden. There is no surprise in the fact that the year 2019, there were no cases of fever and diarrhea. My name is Srinivas Gaud from Ibrahimpur. We are constructing soak pits because of which we don't have any mosquitoes or diseases, only cleanliness. We have constructed soak pits without the need of drainage systems. In the past, we had open drains, but now we don't have any open drains, because of which all the children in the households are very healthy without any diseases. To improve village cleanliness, 2 different dustbins have been distributed to the households to collect dry waste and wet waste separately. Waste is collected every morning using battery-operated vehicles. The collected garbage is taken to the dump yard where dry and wet waste is segregated. The wet waste is used to prepare vermicompost, which is used as fertilizers for the plants in the village.
My name is Bandi Bharatamma from Ibrahimpur. We got 2 baskets, one for wet waste and another one for dry waste. Every day, the vehicle will come to collect the waste.
Thank you, Geeta, while you're setting up the next one. So quickly, I mean, these are some of the important interventions that we are all doing at the Gram Panchayat level as part of Swachh Bharat Mission, and now it has gone to Swachh Bharat Mission Part 2.0. So we have Suvarnala with us joining from Karimnagar village, and we'll show you a short video about what she feels is one of the important component where monitoring aspect has been heavily included. So Geeta, if you can play the second video.
Thank you, Kaushiki. Just setting it up in a minute.
Our village having population around 2,813 and households 803. We couldn't bring awareness on solid and liquid waste management. So we have conducted a training program to our GP employees and village level functionaries, in which ASHA workers, Anganwadi teachers, VOAs and SDGs and some volunteers have attended and were trained by SBM and UNICEF team. With their guidance, we could train them. We have given 100 households to each of the trained persons. Every day, 10 households visited by the trained functionaries to observe if sound segregation has taken place. A written record is kept of these daily monitoring visits. Detail about houses that do not dust source segregation are provided to VWSCs to carry out further behavioral changes. These households are also closely observed and followed up to ensure that they are also allowing source segregation. This way, we are conducting monitoring and also tracking of the solid and liquid waste is regularly observed.
Thank you, Suvarnala. If I see you're available with us, we'll request you if you can quickly come in. So really thank you for that lovely video. Suvarnala, if there is anything you want to add, because aapne dekha, we started from global monitoring, ki saare vishwa mein kaisa monitoring hona chahiye. Then Professor Ramesh took us through very important part, and I think the waste management bit, the work that you're doing already has come out really well in your video. And then we saw कि बिहार में जो पानी है उसको किस तरह से monitor किया जा रहा है. So if you want to add anything, Suvarnala, now that would be great. Mute पे है Suvarnala, उसको unmute कीजिए.
Good afternoon, one and all, the dignitaries and officials. I'm very happy to join with you. Actually, we are able to do everything with the help of UNICEF and SBM team. With their guidance, we could make this Swachh Bharat, I mean to say Swachh village. We want to make our village Swachh village. And according to this Telangana state government, which had launched a Palle Pragati program, it's mainly about a clean and green. In that programs, we could do more than 50%. And in that program, not only water management, sanitation, clean and green, everything comes in it. And each and every household, they are having IIHL, using IIHL soak pits. And greenery also is very important in that program. We have a avenue plantation and even Palle Prakriti Vanam, that is village park. And as I told in the video which is played, we have village volunteers, that is village level volunteers. They help us a lot in making the villages swachh. Even SDGs in their house level also, whenever they conduct a meeting, SDG meeting, they firstly talk about solid and liquid waste, how they have to separate, because only the women can do it. Mostly the waste comes from the kitchen. So most of them, they are preparing waste from making compost, manure from the kitchen waste, using old buckets or pots and whatever they have with them. And they are using that compost for a kitchen garden. And most of the other women also were inspired by this. And every day the sanitation work is going on. The at Gram Panchayat level, the employees go to door, collect the garbage, take the garbage to the segregation shed. They separate the scrap there, and the scrap is sold to the nearby scrap dealer. And by that, we are generating revenue for the GP. And then the waste wet waste is prepared. From that wet waste, we are preparing vermicompost with the help of earthworms. And after completing that compost, we are using that compost in nurseries and also Palle Prakriti Vanam and avenue plantation. And also some amount of this compost is also sold. By that, we are getting revenue generation also. And usage of IIHL. Firstly, we couldn't make 100% usage of IIHL, but by Nigari committee, that in which Anganwadi teacher, Asha workers, and even Swachh Bharat and UNICEF team also did early morning visits at the outskirts of the village to stop the people going out. But we could make it 100% now with the help of them, and regular monitoring is done. A regular early morning visits is being done. And we have conducted a Maha Grama Sabha in which most of the women and also men participated. And in that program, we have explained, and a live demo also was given. With the help of UNICEF and SBM team, we could give awareness to them and how the wet and dry waste should be done. I mean to say how they have to use the twin dustbins at home. And even about sanitation, hand wash, the regular, how important it is to wash hands in this pandemic. Regular wash is very important. We have explained it with live demo. And we brought more than 80% of awareness to the people. And then we have also conducted personal hygiene with the help of live demo and explaining to the students who are in adolescent age. We could make them clear that they should not fear and they have to be free with their mother or the teachers, the students who are in the school. And also we have provided sanitary pads to them. And some children, they are anemic also. So we have told how they have to improve their blood, and even we have.
Sorry, Suvarnala, I think that's a fantastic list of different activities, and I really want to congratulate for you to come and share that how you're implementing the program and how you're also monitoring it. So you have people who are trained, who are going and collecting data. So I really want to thank you. But I think what we will do is, Suvarnala, we might come back to you, but we want to open this up for plenary session. And we want to see if there are any question that has come in for all the speakers. And I would request team to kindly let us know, if there are any questions that we want to definitely hear what the participants have thought of. So over to the host for that. Geeta, any question, and how do we move to the next part? We want to open this up for plenary.
Yes, Kaushiki, indeed, we do have a few questions that have come on our way. I'll just quickly begin with the first one. So we've been asked if climate resilience WASH is not a part of the SDG goals. Would you like to comment on that?
I think the question is perhaps just to kind of reiterate that climate resilience is one of the most integral part, given that we are in a current situation where we are seeing there's so much of change, right? And what we need is the sustainability component. I mean, after all the different infrastructure development and the amount of investment that's happening through Jal Jeevan Mission and through Swachh Bharat Mission, I think the need of the hour, and this is something which is a little future looking towards the forward-looking concept, that we have to integrate climate resilience within our indicator. And I think correctly pointed out that we don't really have much data, and also the work is just started happening in a lot of states, but not in a much concerted way, or not something which is streamlined. But I think need of the hour is to streamline and definitely to monitor and get the data, because unless we have data, we don't know what exactly is happening. So I'll end it there, Geeta. If anyone, Rajiv, if you want to add anything, or Dr. Ramesh, on the climate resilience WASH, then please do come in.
I don't think I have worked anything on climate resilience. And one thing I would say is that we climb, because I work for the Ministry of Rural Development, and this NREGA program, you can say that about 60 to 70% of NREGA work, it is, if you see, that is to do with water conservation. It is to do with water conservation and desilting of ponds, and also plantations, raising saplings and plantations. And here in Telangana also, if you see, they are using in some of the villages, they are using the, or I should say reusing the wastewater. They are reusing the recycling and reusing wastewater for raising plantations and all. So this quite a lot of water conservation work that are taken up under NREGA, and also the plantation work that are taken under NREGA. And we have initiated a study, and we have not completed it yet. And we will come to know what is the contribution of NREGA to climate resilience, and to what extent it has been able to address the challenge, climate, global warming challenge. So that's a study we have initiated, because we strongly believe, this is our hypothesis, we strongly believe that NREGA is definitely contributing to addressing the problem of climate change. And the idea is that because of this one, the 60 to 70% work is to do with water conservation. And there is also a lot of plantations taking place. So to what extent it has been able to do that? That's the study we have initiated. That's all I can contribute about this. Otherwise, that's not a subject I'm deep into.
Sure, thanks, Dr. Ramesh. Perhaps Rajiv, if you would want to talk about, because Bihar essentially has, is facing a lot of flood, and there is always that component where we are ensuring that the infrastructure that is being laid out is sustainable and long-standing. So any comment from your end in terms of programming or in terms of monitoring as well, if you can shed some light.
Thank you, Kausiki. I think the direct answer to the question which was there is that is climate resilient versus one of the SDG indicator. So there's no straightforward indicator as far as my information goes. But when we say safe sanitation, or when we say safe water, that has component of climate resilience. Similarly, Bihar experience we try looking at. In the first round of the campaign, there was no such consideration, so to say. In theory, it is a classical case where you say that you are providing client, again bringing market in the perspective, you say that client have basket of choices in terms of toilet technology, but you end up prescribing simply the 2 leach pit toilet in the area which sees the water logging for more than 3 months, which is neither safe nor climate resilient. So that was the folly in the first round of SBMG, but now the government is cognizant of it, and we are in the process of launching the campaign. There we're saying that the next round of very informed household focused toilet should be at least in the area where the flood is there, should be resilient to flooding through raised pit, or maybe looking for the other toilets such as bio toilets, or even a good well-built septic tank. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv, and totally agree with the overall sustainable development goal, but I think to ensure safely managed services, we have to ensure there is resilience and sustainability. Geeta, or any other question that came in from the group? I think we are almost at the end of
yes, Kaushiki. A lot of questions. In fact, the first thing, I'll be very selective because we also have some time to sort of adhere to. But this one question is directly addressed to Rajiv. It says, dear Rajiv, you mentioned a 5-year DBOT approach. Is it being contracted from GP level or ward level? And is it to an external agency? In the bracket, it reads utility approach. Perhaps they want to try to understand what the utility approach is for such a setting. Over to you, Rajiv, for that question.
Okay, so I think there are 3 questions into it, if I understand correctly. So one is the utility approach. When we say utility approach, we say that at the ward level, one ward have a pipe water supply scheme. They managed in a professionally led rules. When I say professionally led, these are the following in MGPNY. One, that the community has invited third party to bore and then set up the entire system. And after the system is set up, government provides annual money to these WIMC, which kind of works like utility. And as Professor Ramesh has said, and this particular utility, WIMC, then ask again the professional agencies to do the operation and maintenance on a signed contract with the KPI clearly defined, that there should not be dry board for say about 48 hours, which I have shown in my presentation, the last slide. And there is stipulated services. There is an agreement that you have certain basic equipments and fittings available in each block. So WIMC works as a utility, and these are the professional contract which happens between WIMC and the third party service provider in case of Panchayat.
Thank you,
Rajiv.
Geeta, I think just to look at the time, we are over the timeline. So if there is any last question, Geeta, perhaps we can take it, or else I think we can definitely get back through our formal communication of the conclave.
Kaushiki, in fact, we do have a couple of 10 minutes to sort of spare for the question session as per the information that we've received right now. So if the panel and the moderators are okay, can we take a couple of more questions?
Sure, I am okay.
Sure, please go ahead, Geeta.
All right, thank you so much. So there is a question on how would you improve the accuracy of GPS data? It sounds a little more technical to me, but if any one of the panelists can take this question and answer that.
So I am not expert.
Yeah,
I
think
no,
I pass.
Geeta must select also questions that, I mean, you are going into climate change, you are going into GIS, things which we have not spoken about here. Please select questions that are relevant here. I mean,
sure.
The questions are relevant, but we are not into GIS or we are not into.
So,
absolutely
and
understand.
just to say that, monitoring, I mean, there are so many technologies and innovation happening. What we need is exactly like the correct people who are the people who can do proper GPS tracking and GIS scaling and get the work done. हमको service level benchmark पता है कि क्या करना है. We just need to find the good fit professional people to get the work done. I think that's the crux of this whole session.
Thanks, Kaushiki. But there are a couple of questions, I think, as Dr. Ramesh suggested, which are absolutely well fitting for this particular session. So one of the questions is, if O&M is also given by the government, will that not reduce the level of ownership that the community has on the project? And I think the participant is suggesting that O&M by user charges may be better.
So, Professor Ramesh, do you want to have a shot or should I go ahead?
Rajiv, go ahead. I think.
Okay. So I think, thank you. Very interesting question. But urban, I mean, as benchmark in the rural area is pretty new subject. We are yet to evolve that. The urban benchmarking and the service guarantee shows that no water supply system or per se even the sanitation system can manage on their own. So having said that, on their own, look at any cities that's currently government has to bear a lot of capex, as well as maybe in the form of annual grant, but for operation maintenance as well. So I think operation and maintenance by itself, even through that can be communitized, as I said in the Bihar example. So these are the money which is meant for Gram Panchayat, and that money which ideally may have been put into different projects, but that communitized and government has taken a conscious decision that if I quote the correct figure, each ward implementation and management committee are going to get 24,000. So that means 2,000 per month to bear various costs, including the electricity charges. Plus, there's another source which I said that to start with, each household are supposed to pay 30 rupees a month. So that's the second source that is coming. And the third money which is coming, that if there is a shortfall among all this Panchayat can make provision from the overall grants from the 15th Finance Commission. So I think operation and maintenance cost borne by the government can have say about inversely proportional to community not managing it or not owning is, I think not, when the experience says that it's not a well-placed argument and has not been in urban area. Rather, the argument should be that better services can motivate, in fact, people to really pay for those services rather than having no services and then trying to build ownership by charging them. So I think part of cost has to be borne by the government. Over. Thank you. Professor Ramesh, you can share your experience possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some distraction. I think I got the question all right. Let me try to respond. This operation and maintenance, I mean, being met by the government. I think that's the question. I would say that we are not guiding the panchayats all right. I would say that because there are several sources of funds for the panchayat. If you see, for example, house tax, for example, there was one state government. I mean, now they are after the 15th Finance Commission fund, they have withdrawn. But earlier, for the panchayats to be able to meet the operation and maintenance expenses related to water, sanitation, and if given Gram Panchayat achieved more than 90% house tax collection, if they achieved more than 90% house tax collection, and they become eligible to get 3 times of the fund from the government. And out of that, about 20% can be used for water sanitation related expenses. And this way, they were trying to motivate panchayats to go for house tax collection. I mean, achieve more than 90% house tax collection. That is number one. I mean, because there are many panchayat presidents that are hesitant even to go for house tax collection. So house tax collection is one, I mean, motivated, and you go for 90%, 100% house tax collection so that you are able to get this 2 times of the money in the panchayat account, number one. And that way you'll be able to use 20% towards water and sanitation expenses. And this came about because it happened that the electricity bill was very big, and the many panchayats electricity bill was very big, that when the money for some development purposes come, the collector used to instruct all the panchayats that about 40% of the money will be cut to pay the electricity board. Money meant for development purposes, right, that being cut to pay electricity bill. That means you give from one department and the collector, I mean, give it to another department. And this money meant for development purpose in a village is not being used for development purpose. And people don't know this, and the Gram Sabha doesn't know this, and the Sarpanch is keeping quiet because somehow this has to be paid and he doesn't find any other way of paying. Right. So these are things we need to bring to light when we discuss with our Gram Sabha or Panchayat. We need to tell them that only if they pay, if they are able to meet the operation and maintenance expenses, and the money meant for development purposes, you have the claim. You have the claim to say that we are paying random, and where is the money? Show me the money, and that transparency can come. Right. That where is this money being spent? Right. So this is just one example I gave you about the house tax. Similarly, there are several sources of fund. The several own sources of fund that the panchayats can raise, but because of socio-political reasons, many panchayat presidents are not moving, and I don't buy the idea of unwillingness to pay. There are many studies have proved also that it is only unwillingness to charge. It is unwillingness to charge for collection of usage charges on the part of elected representatives. It is not about unwillingness to pay, or it is not even about the question of people being not able to. It's not about the ability to pay. People have the ability to pay. You can definitely say, the panchayat can say that there are about 20 households, 25 households in this panchayat, they cannot pay, and we pass as a Gram Sabha resolution. These are really very, very poor families. They will not pay. A Gram Sabha resolution can be passed that 20, 30 families are poor. Others can pay. They have the ability to pay. Right, that can be a Gram Sabha resolution that they are exempted from paying, others must pay. This is the amount. And also for various categories of users of service. It can be about water, it can be about waste management. We need to have various categories of users. Accordingly, we need to charge them. And such things we need to push, and that is possible only when we show them how this money meant for development purpose being used for paying electricity bill, like the example I gave you. The same, if it continues, the same is going to happen about 15th Finance Commission fund also. The money is coming from 15th Finance Commission fund, thinking that it is going to be used for water sanitation or for any purpose, the remaining 40%. or any purpose that the panchayat may decide. But if kind of electricity bill is pending for 1 year, obviously the collector will order that to pay the electricity bill first, right? So this we need to make the people know that what's going on, which we are not doing.
And just to add, because we are looking at the monitoring part of it. So operation maintenance is a very integral core of any program implementation. If you're setting up a pipe water supply hand washing station, we need to know if it is breaking down, who's going to come and do the operation maintenance. But what's also important is that we need to monitor, or we need to be able to track that whether there is a complaint of a pipe water supply, pipe water tap, or a hand washing station being broken down. So data is something that we require at all levels, and something that can happen at a Gram Panchayat level, something that will go up to the district and state, and finally at the national level. When we look at larger surveys, there are certain aspect of this whole monitoring that we can do. So perhaps that's where that's where we in this. Ita, if you have any other question, it's 3:45, so perhaps the last question that
yes, Kaushiki. Yes, Kaushiki. We'll just close with this one question. So the question is on SDG compliance includes available when needed and free from contamination. I think this is with respect to water they're talking about. How is it monitored at household level for all the 1.76 crore households in Bihar? Rajiv, I think it's quite a specific question to you, but it's open to the panel as well.
So that's a interesting question, actually. And this for Bihar, 1.76 tells. Yes, go ahead, Pasti.
Rajiv, before you respond to that, I think I just want to also establish that safely managed sanitation through Jal Jeevan Mission is the area where we are moving towards, right? It's not something that's like done and dusted. So I think it's a very difficult question, Rajiv, given that 1.7 crore household, how are they doing this entire monitoring? But there are different layers to it. And I think what we wanted to bring in today in this session is for you to understand that it has to be unfolded at different levels. National level में जो data मिलेगा वो obviously आपको ग्राम पंचायत level में आपको data collect नहीं करोगे, उससे ज़्यादा detail में collect करोगे. And similarly, there will be aggregation at state level and district level, which I think Professor Ramesh was also talking in this presentation. But just setting that context, Rajiv, I want to hand it over to you for you to answer this tricky kaise kar do type question.
Okay, so that's a huge question, and I think it will take many years to reach there. But to respond to the specifics, so 1.76 crore household, and the first qualification stage or benchmark that available when needed. We know that we are not living as far as the rural water supply goes, even urban for that matter. We're not living in the regime of 24/7 water. So that's like a big question even for rural. I think recently one district in or urban municipality in perhaps Odisha has declared that, okay, water perhaps will be available. So when it is not 24/7, so here the current benchmark says that the water will be available for 2 hours in the morning, specified hours again, and in the evening. In certain cases with the Gram Sabha resolution, they also go for the pumping in the afternoon. So that's where it is. So when available, they always resort to alternative sources. Thankfully, we have, as I told you, we have a lot of groundwater. So that's how they manage 24/7 in terms of household. On the monitoring part of it, currently there's no such monitoring, because I said that since benchmark is not met for 24/7 through pipe water supply, so the monitoring question has not yet arrived there. So that's on the available when needed. Free from all contamination, there's set protocol here, and government has, as there has been movement in other districts as well. So we have network laboratories, state laboratory, which is NABL, and then we have district laboratories. 2 of the laboratories are NABL, otherwise district laboratories are there. There have been movement in last 2 years that there will be sub-district laboratory, which is like subdivision, what we'll call in our part of the world, so sub-divisional laboratories. And then there are protocols for the testing of the water. I must concede, and as I said, that's why I said that these are architects. infrastructure which need to be fully optimally tested, so to say. So bacteriological testing yet is not available across what we call MPN number and going so forth and so forth. But yet government has moved in place of that, because your subdivisional laboratory may still be 60 kilometers away from your home, and you may not have, because of this 1.76 crore household connection. So one good midpoint is that FTK has been promoted and government has uh, procured it, and now they are in the process of distributing it to the community, so that at least the community can know their water structure. One of the complementary thing which I want to just mention in that, there is a monthly Jal Chopal, which is a set and which has to happen across all districts. And in Jal Chopal, they are expected to discuss the quality of water. So on both these count, as I said, on the monitoring part, we still have the data for the safely managed, but we do not have the data at least for the available when needed. Over. Thank you. I hope I could answer. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Rajiv, for very clearly mentioning that. And I think this probably will require a different series of workshops in order to identify the best possible way to have a monitoring system at national level and at Gram Panchayat level for safely managed drinking water. It's something that we want to bring in heavily to all of you. Whoever is working at the Gram Panchayat, this is the need of the hour. So please do innovate and find out processes and set up these monitoring systems, which is really required. Dr. Ramesh, any last thought on this bigger bits that, there is so many things that's happening, but we really don't have much monitoring system, especially at the Gram Panchayat level. For each and every small little activity, I think there are quantum of things that needs to be tracked and it needs to be properly kept within databases. I think we are still yet to see a complete end-to-end solution. So any last thought, and then I think we'll hand it over to Geeta. You are on mute.
If I can just add one more point only, maybe that is where the government is talking about sensor-based applications, I think. And I do not know if this is possible at every panchayat level. And we are able to see here in Telangana that because it is combined water supply, or you can say multi-village water supply, where the one source supplying water to about 240 villages in one area, another place about 170 villages being served. There, it is possible they are doing also through sensor-based systems. That like the quantity being supplied, if there is a breakage, or what is the residual chlorine, all that they are able to monitor. Yet, sitting in a room, they are able to monitor now. But it is possible. In a grid-based system, it is possible. I do not know if it is really possible at this moment at the panchayat level. That's all I would want to say.
Thanks. Absolutely correctly concluded. Geeta, I think over to you and to the
Thank you.
host,
Thank you so
for
much.
the next.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaushiki, and all the panelists for joining us. I'd like to give it over to Sharon. Sharon, for you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh and Ms. Kaushiki. And that was indeed an informative and interesting session. And now, my dear friends, I'm sure you all must be waiting for an entertaining segment, and that will be brought to you by Rinki Sharma. So she will be singing some amazing songs again. I request Rinki Sharma to please take over. It's your time now to entertain us with your melodious voice. Over to you, Rinki.
Thank you, Sharon. For my next song, I actually have a Bengali song. This one's called Ekla Cholo Re, and it's been written by Sri Rabindranath Tagore ji. And it talks about how if nobody pays heed to your calls, to your ideologies, to what you have to say, then just walk alone. So that's what the song is about, and I hope you enjoy this. যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে, তবে একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি কেউ কথা না কয়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা, কেউ কথা না কয়, যদি সবাই তাকে মুখ ফেরায়, সবাই করে ভয়, যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফেরায়, সবাই করে ভয়, তবে পরন খুলে অতই মুখ ফুটে তোর মনের কথা একলা বলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে। যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা, সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না চায়, যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না চায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তোলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা, আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রা নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর চালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, একলা চলো রে, একলা চলো রে। Thank you so much.
Wow, that was truly amazing. Rinki, I should say that every song of yours is so divine, so soulful, and we really enjoyed it a lot. And I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. So yes, virtual claps for you from all of us here. Thank you so much for always entertaining us. And now we'll be moving on to the technical breakout session on different cross-cutting issues related to WASH. So the topic, role of Panchayati Raj institutions in improving communication and mobilization at village level for strengthening sustainable WASH behaviors and environmental health. Now, this will be held in Hall Kaveri. So please make note of it. This will be held in Hall Kaveri. Now, the other topic, which is strategies for disability, gender, equity, and inclusion in WASH programs at the Panchayati Raj institution level. This will be held in Hall Godavari. So this will be in Godavari, and the earlier one that I just mentioned will be in Kaveri. So you have two halls there. And now the next one, which is how to build linkages of WASH programs with sustainable climate and disaster resilience agenda at Panchayat level. This will be held at Hall Narmada. So here you can choose, yes, you have Hall Kaveri, Godavari, and this one is at Narmada. Now the next one, ways for developing technical human resources for WASH at the Panchayati Raj institutions and ensuring safety of sanitation work in rural areas. This will be held in Hall Yamuna. So altogether, there are 4 halls. So my dear friends, please go ahead and choose your respective hall, whether it is Kaveri, it is Godavari, Narmada, or Yamuna. And once you have decided, you can disperse to the halls. Participants are requested to go to the respective halls to attend these technical sessions from 4 p.m. onwards. Yes, 4 p.m. And please come back by 5:30 because we have a very, very beautiful valedictory session right here being conducted only for you. And we have all the dignitaries from the ministries coming over to attend it. So it will be a very grand event. So please come back at 5:30 back to this hall. And as of now, please choose your session, and as per your session, go to the respective halls. Thank you so much.